How'd you do, my dear? What a lovely surprise, nice to see you here.
All the bills have been long overdue, my dear.
File them under IOU. How'd you do? Well, hello, it's you. Love my dress, love my jewels, are they Marley-Boo? They belong to the Internal Revenue, and they've got us eating stew.
The Pruitts of Southampton live like the richest folk. But what the folk don't know is that the Pruitts are flat broke.
How'd you do, my dear?
We are out of champagne and I'm stuck, my dear.
Ask the butler to lend you a buck, my dear. How'd you do?
It's hard to believe, Mother. Last year we had a 20-foot tree, and this year we've got to settle for this. What are we going to tell our friends?
No problem. We'll just tell them our last tree had a baby. Honey, maybe we're broke, but we've got to keep our spirits up. You don't see me worrying. Even though we're poor, this Christmas Eve, when that Santa Claus parade passes by, your mother will be up on the roof, standing proudly, head held high, waving gaily to her friends below. Then Mother will jump.
You're wonderful. I couldn't have picked a better mother in the whole world.
Well, as I recall, you didn't have much of a choice. It was either Muzzy or forget it.
I'll be right back. I'm going to get some more tinsel. Hi, Uncle Ned.
'Tis the season to be jolly, tra-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la.
Oh, Ned, please, if you pile any more decorations on that poor little thing, there won't be any room under it for the gifts.
What gifts?
Start piling.
Begging your pardon, madam. With Christmas only 5 days off, I've prepared the menu for our dinner.
Wonderful, Sturgis. What gay, mad dish are you featuring for our Yuletide banquet?
Hot dogs and beans.
How many each?
The hot dogs or the beans?
Forget it. Christmas Day, we're eating out. Call the Salvation Army Soup Kitchen and make a reservation for 4.
Oh, I'll see who that is, madam.
If it's a turkey, let him in and show him to the oven.
How the fortunes of the Pruitts have changed. Last year, feasting on Christmas aboard our yacht. This year, hot dogs, beans, and the last one to the table is a rotten egg.
Mother, Mrs. Fenwick dropped in. I told her you'd be right out.
Looking like this, she'll expect me to come flying out on a broom. It'll only take me a minute to change.
I hear that Hazel's just married her 6th husband.
5th. Her 3rd and 4th were twins. Maybe she'll let me have one of her rejects. Hazel, darling.
Phyllis, dear.
How nice to see you. Won't you sit down?
Thank you, dear. It has been a long time, hasn't it?
Tell me, how's that wonderful new husband of yours? What's his name?
Don't tell me. Oh, yes, Claude. He left for Florida on our honeymoon.
Well, now, I hate to sound old-fashioned, but wouldn't it have been more fun if you'd gone with him?
Oh, I couldn't go, darling. I had to show my cocker spaniel at the dog show.
Oh, well, first things first.
But actually, I do feel a little guilty about poor Claude waiting all alone in Florida. So I've come to ask you a favor.
Oh, come on. There's a limit to what one friend can do for another. Ooh-ha.
Oh, Phyllis, be serious. Now, something has come up, and I need your help.
Sure. Meanwhile, let's have some of this Christmas punch.
Well,
one slug of this, and you'll be dancing with your chauffeur all the way home.
well, he is very good-looking. All right, just a tiny little cup. Now, for the reason that I'm here, dear. You know, every year, Harriet DeWitt gives a large Christmas dinner for some poor orphan children.
Ah, yes. What pleasure that must give her.
But this year, Harriet has to be in Acapulco. So she called me and asked me to give the party, and naturally, I accepted.
You're going to love this stuff, Hazel.
But just this morning, my new husband called, and he insists that I join him in Florida today. So I called Harriet. And you know Harriet. She called all the newspapers and told them that you would give the Christmas dinner party for the orphans.
Me? Clumsy.
Oh, Phyllis, you are a riot. I'll bet you'll keep those 50 kids in stitches all night.
50 kids? If anybody's going to be in stitches, it'll be me.
Now, Mrs. Kimball of the orphanage is going to come by tomorrow to discuss further details with you.
But I've already made plans for a small family Christmas dinner.
Really? Do you want me to call all the newspapers and tell them that Phyllis Pruitt refused to feed 50 hungry little orphans?
Like I said, when those kids ring the doorbell Christmas Eve, we'll turn out the lights and hide under the bed.
Mother, since this is for a good cause, do you think we could get the revenue department to release some money for that Christmas party?
Our friendly tax inspector, Mr. Baldwin, is in a rest home with a nervous breakdown, which I gave him, and that tough boss of his would never come across with the dough.
How do you know? Maybe you could reason with Mr. Maxwell.
Are you kidding? Mr. Baldwin told me that man is so tough, when he has to throw a widow out of her home, he waits for a rainy day.
Phyllis, you've always had a superb gift for nagging. If you turned this talent to use, you might wheedle the money out of the man.
Oh, I thank you for the lovely compliment, Uncle Ned. But let's face it, my best wheedling days are behind me.
Oh, come on, old girl. Remember our motto, a Pruitt can do it.
I don't know. I think this Pruitt blew it.
Mother, Mr. Baldwin was always talking about his boss. Did he ever mention some weakness that Mr. Maxwell might have?
No. Only that he was kind of dated in his thinking. Thinks modern woman is too independent, that there's no such thing as an old-fashioned girl anymore. Wait a minute. Mr. Maxwell has only seen me once or twice. He doesn't really know little old-fashioned measy-weasy, does he?
This way, Mr. Maxwell. Mrs. Pruitt is expecting you.
Ah, Mrs.
Why, hello, Mr. Maxwell. When I called, I never dreamed you'd find time to visit plain little me. What's wrong? Kitty cat got your tonguey pie?
Oh, I beg your pardon, Mrs. Pruitt, but I've only met you once or twice, and you didn't seem at all like this.
Well, in my circles, one has to put up a front. What you're seeing is the real me.
You got something in your eye?
Oh, you do say the wittiest things.
You seem so different.
Well, I know you think I'm a silly goose, and I suppose it's true. But my family always says Phyllis has a weak mind, but a fabulous body.
You know, Mrs. Pruitt, I've been admiring that old gramophone. Takes me back to my youth. Does it still play?
Mr. Maxwell, what a sneaky way of asking a girl to dance. Do you waltz?
Well, at the risk of seeming immodest, in 1936, I won the annual Harvest Moon Waltz Contest.
I knew it. I knew it. The minute you walked in, I knew you had great legs.
Oh. Well, I don't know. To me, they're just transportation.
I simply adore waltzing. Wait, I'll put a record on the gramophone.
You know, Mrs. Pruitt, I've been noticing your modest Christmas tree. I suppose your tax problems left all you people a little pinched.
Pinched? We're black and blue. Oh, but let's not discuss business while we're dancing. It will only destroy the magic of the moment. Oh, be careful when you dip me. I don't snap back like I used to. about that record sticking. Once it kept me dancing for 3 days.
Oh, I can't tell you what a delight this has been, Mrs. Pruitt. In these mad times, I didn't realize that anyone was still clinging to the old-fashioned values.
Well, I always say, if one can't cling to what one's family has always clung to, then all one's clinging comes unclung.
Yes, well, I think I better be going. I have to get back to the office. What was it you wanted to talk to me about, Mrs. Pruitt?
I promised I'd give a Christmas dinner for 50 little orphans, and I was hoping that your department would advance me the money.
Dinner for some orphans. How much do you figure you need?
How about a couple of hundred old-fashioned dollars? I hope you're in a good mood today.
I must say it's been a most pleasurable visit.
I'm glad.
Yes, indeed. I haven't danced in years. That old gramophone brings back pleasant memories of home and mother.
Can I have the money for that Christmas dinner, Mr. Maxwell?
Certainly not. Must remind you, Mrs. Pruitt, you're dealing with the Internal Revenue Service, not a catering service.
But it's for a bunch of kids. Don't you believe me?
Of course I do. Well, just like I believe you're an old-fashioned girl. Merry Christmas, Mrs. Pruitt.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Scrooge.
Put that wig back on the owl. Looks better on him than it does on you.
For your information, Ebenezer Scrooge, that owl's not a him. It's a her. Ned, any minute that Mrs. Kimball from the orphanage will be coming by. How do I tell her that the fabulously rich Phyllis Pruitt has to cancel a dinner for 50 orphans because she is fabulously broke?
Quite simple, my dear. You lie.
Me lie?
It should come quite naturally to you. You're a Pruitt.
No, I just couldn't do that. I've got to tell Mrs. Kimball the truth.
Fine. The word will get around, and then, soon, all your dear, dear friends will say, there's poor Phyllis Pruitt passing by, the town's pauper. Do you think you'll be able to look them in the eye?
Like I said, I'll simply tell Mrs. Kimball the truth. That our yacht sank off the coast of Madagascar, and I'm flying out in our private plane to supervise dredging activities. Ned, I don't believe a word I said.
Well, you sold me, my dear. I was ready to put on my frogman outfit.
I've got it. Everybody thinks I'm a little scrambled. Tell Mrs. Kimball they finally came and took me away.
Took you away?
Yes, tell her that when you got up this morning, you found me in the top of a tree trying to hatch a robin's egg. Oh, dear. That must be her. What'll I give her, the ship or the egg? Or should I make him a new story?
Calm down, my dear. In the face of this crisis, your Uncle Ned will stand squarely behind you. Say anything you want, and I'll back you. So now go, and remember that we'll solve this little problem together.
That's what I like about you, Ned. You're all uncle. Oh, hello. You must be Mrs. Kimball. Come right in.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm Phyllis Pruitt.
Oh, Mrs. Pruitt, I want you to meet Tommy Winslow. He's one of the boys from our home.
My, what a dear little boy. Mrs. Kimball, Tommy, I'd like you to meet my Uncle Ned. I guess he just stepped out. Mrs. Kimball, I know that you came to discuss the children's Christmas party, and I must tell you...
Excuse me, Mrs. Pruitt. Tommy has prepared a speech, and I'd appreciate it if he could deliver it now, before he forgets it.
All right, let's hear your speech, Tommy.
Mrs. Pruitt, in behalf of the children at the Kimball Orphanage, I would like to thank you for the wonderful Christmas dinner you will give us. And we will like you to have this token for our appreciation.
Thank you, Tommy.
It's a dozen handkerchiefs with your initials on them.
Mrs. Pruitt, you wanted to tell me something?
Well,
Are we gonna have a turkey for dinner?
You're gonna have a dozen turkeys and a huge ham and pumpkin pie and mince pie and the biggest Christmas tree you ever saw in your life. And under the tree...
And under the tree, there'll be lots of presents for all you dear little kiddies. Phyllis, you have finally snapped your shawl cap.
Sure, and you stood squarely behind me, 60 feet behind me.
My dear, This Olympian feast that you promised the orphanage will cost us at least $200. May I ask where you intend to raise that sum within the next 4 days?
I could sell my body to the Harvard Medical School.
You may have to.
Mother, Uncle Ned, wonderful news. I just got a job at Thornberry's department store.
A job? That's great.
Marvelous.
And Uncle Ned, they've got a job for you, too.
Down, girl. Let's not lose our heads.
What kind of a job do they have for Uncle Ned?
Santa Claus. The one they had working for them quit this morning. And when I described Uncle Ned, they said to send him over right away.
Oh, hitch up your reindeer, St. Nick. You're flying tonight.
But look, I cannot play Santa Claus. I'm not used to working. Having a boss ordering me around, I'll go to pieces.
Take a couple of relaxing pills. And remember, Uncle Ned, you're working to feed 50 hungry little mouths and 4 big ones. Oh, come on, what do you say?
Merry Christmas, children. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas, little boy. Ho, ho, ho.
Santa Claus, can I have a rocket ship for Christmas?
Sure you can, my lad. Ho, ho, ho.
Merry Christmas. Here, little boy. You get down. You run along, son. Wake up. Wake up. This is the 3rd time you've fallen asleep today.
Ho, ho, ho. Oh, it's you, Mr. Preble.
It's lucky for you I can't find anyone to replace you now. I hired you to be Santa Claus, not Rip Van Winkle. Christmas. You hear? I want a Santa Claus, not a Rip Van Winkle. The next time you fall asleep on the job, you're fired. Is that clear?
Very good, sir.
Uncle Ned, you mustn't get fired. We need your salary and Stephanie's for that Christmas dinner. Why are you so sleepy?
Those tranquilizers you gave me, I took a few.
What do you mean, a few?
10 or 12. I didn't count. I told you working makes me sleepy.
Oh, no. Did he fall asleep again?
Yep, the pride of the Pruitts just pooped out. Here, give me a hand, Stephanie. We can't afford to lose this job.
Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho.
Santa, get your hand off your hip and uncross those legs. And fluff up that padding in there. Oh, if you guys didn't have a union.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride.
Hiya, Santa, baby. How about sitting on my lap for a change? Don't play hard to get, Santa, honey. How about parking your sleigh in the drive-in movie after work, huh? Well, now, Barnett, stop gabbing with Santa and get back on the job. Come on. Yes, sir.
Hop up here on my lap, little girl. Now, tell old Santa what you want for Christmas.
A little brother.
Will you settle for a skateboard?
Okay.
Fine. Oh, my, that ice cream looks delicious. Can I have a lick?
Sure.
What have you done now? You better go, little girl. Sit right down there. Go on. Go find your mother. Go on. Oh, look at that mess. You go into that washroom and clean up your beard. Go on. I told you to go in there and wash up. Well, go on. Didn't you hear what I said? If you don't go in there and clean up, you're fired.
I think I better quit.
Merry Christmas, children. Ho, ho, ho. Ho, ho, ho.
Do you think the kids would go for Mrs. Santa Claus?
I'm sorry, Phyllis. I didn't mean to lose that Christmas dinner for those kids.
You didn't lose it. When you serve hot dogs by candlelight, who knows? It could be turkey.
Mother, we'll do better than hot dogs. I'll be getting a paycheck, remember?
Swell. Now, if we can just find a pot roast with a wishbone, we've got it made. Mr. Maxwell, did you do all this?
Well, it didn't just grow there.
But why? Why did you change your mind?
Number one, I don't like being called Scrooge, especially around Christmas. And number two, I checked with Mrs. Kimball and found out you actually were planning that dinner for those orphans.
You are wonderful, Mr. Maxwell. Oh, my goodness. I'm so happy to know that the tax department has a heart.
Well, you're lucky that Christmas doesn't fall on April 15th.
How can I ever thank you for all this? Oh, I know. You're standing under the mistletoe.
Mistletoe? I don't see any mistletoe.
We'll hang it up later. Come here, you crazy tax man.
Now, Mrs. Pruitt, just a second.
Oh, you know.
Just look at them. Ever see anybody happier than those kids?
They're little dolls, all of them.
I must say, Mrs. Pruitt, in all my years with the family, I have never served a more sumptuous dinner.
How many turkeys do you figure these little rascals consume?
If you're thinking of leftovers, Uncle Ned, forget it. Tomorrow night, the Pruitts go back to hot dogs and beans. How you doing, Santa? Aha! You having a good time, Mr. Maxwell?
Mrs. Pruitt, I am playing Santa Claus only to save the government the expense of hiring one.
Now be nice to the kids. For one day a year, forget their tax deductions. Okay, kids, let's hear it for old Santa. Hip, hip, hooray! I hope it isn't broken. Merry Christmas? Oh, you've been such a doll, Mr. Maxwell.
Not a Scrooge?
Well, not all the time.
Good, because in the midst of all this plenty, remember your back taxes will be due next week.
Yes, Mr. Scrooge.